held her gaze. She got a voice, and sometimes that's even more powerful.